Hello, this is Matthew Robert Payne. I want to apologize for the shortness of the last video. This is Leah part 2, and and Toulou's got many questions for her, so I imagine this won't be the last part. Toulouse can be a bit of a slave driver, and she would have been good in Joseph's day, having slavery. She would have directed the slaves very well back in the kingdom of Egypt. Um, so, um, so we're going to interview Toulouse. Toulou's going to interview Leah some more. So your next question for Leah is?
Yes, my next question for Leah is, the Bible says God opened your womb and Rachel was barren when God saw you were unloved by Jacob. What does that tell you of God?
God is an amazing God, I've already explained some of the core values that come from my mother was being a good cook, being a good wife, lover to your husband, and being a good mother. And it was integral. It was a really significant thing for a female in those days to give her husband children. So it was a really, really good thing of God to open my womb and give me the ability to have children. And for those early years, it was a really helpful thing for Rachel to be barren. It had an effect. It had a gradual effect on Jacob's love for Rachel, having her not get pregnant and bring forth a son for him had like a detrimental effect. So just as God blessed my womb and blessed me to be able to give Jacob children, it also was an advantage that Rachel was barren. Once again, we probably don't need to interview Rachel. She's certainly getting a lot of mention here, but she's my darling sister, and she's punching me in the belly and giving me a wrestle right now. That don't you be bad mouthing me too much, and yeah, she's a real champion, and so I won. It's like Rachel was invited to the beauty pageant, but that the person preparing a dress forgot to sew a dress properly. She couldn't come out and appear in one of the heats of the beauty pageant. She had the beauty, but she didn't have the goods, and she had the beauty for Jacob, but she wasn't carrying the goods when it came to childbirth, and she was stunted, like she had one short leg. And I played that to my advantage and just kept on having children and say to Jacob, see, I'm the great lover and I'm the mother of your children, mate. You picked the wrong one there. Yeah, God was really good to me. Now, I want to assure you that no matter who you are and no matter what station you are in life, no matter where you are on earth, what God has given you, or where you are situated in heaven and what place you are, not many people really realize that God is sovereign, that God has great control, even though you as humans in heaven and earth have got free will. God's ways are above your ways, and his ways are more comprehensive, and he's smarter and wiser in so many ways. So you may look at what God presents you and gives you in life. You may think that's unfair, or it's not as good as other people. But I think you should invest more time in what God has given you, and look at the breath that you carry each day, and the children that you have, or the job that you have, and the things that you've been given. And rather than complain about what you haven't got, you would be encouraged to go forth and spend your time praising God and thanking God, and having a spirit of thankfulness for what you have got. I was just a simple, plain woman who was taught very much by her mother, and I just played what I had available to myself, and I made a success out of my life, even though there was really clear preference of Jacob over to Rachel over me. So God looked after me and gave me a fruitful womb, and God can look after you and play into your hands if you choose to be thankful and gracious towards God, rather than complaining and moaning and feeling that you're hard done by.
Thank you, Leah. And how were you able to encourage Rachel through all this?
I was a great younger sister. I suggested that Rachel give her maid to Jacob, and that was a strange practice. Like there's a lot of men these days who sleep with the maid without the wife's permission. There's a lot of men who have a nanny for the children and end up sleeping with her. Well, that's not the same as in biblical days. It was actually sanctioned that the maid was part of your property or part of your own body. So it's an official thing that a husband could sleep with a maid and not be cheating on his wife. But these days, men are still sleeping with maids, but the maids aren't sanctioned by the wife. I want to make that very clear. So I recommended that to Rachel. Rachel was heartbroken, and I speak to all those women here listening to this that were barren when they were on earth, or if you're in heaven now, or if you're barren and you're listening to this video now on earth. So few people listen on earth, but being barren makes you feel incomplete, inadequate, incomplete as a woman. Makes you feel like a failure, that one of your chief purposes to bring forth children has been stopped. And I want to speak a healing word to you, that you are whole, you are loved, you are precious, you are dear in God's heart, and there's nothing you did to make this happen. It is just the sovereign act of God, that he gives to some, he takes away from some, and that his mind cannot be understood. If you ever think you can understand the mind of God, well, you'll be God himself. And so some things are beyond understanding. And I want to speak a word of encouragement to you, that you are worthy. And so I for a while I was happy that Rachel was barren, and then I started praying and appealing to God to open up her womb so that she wouldn't feel as disgraced as she was feeling.
Thank you, Leah. I like your sincerity. For a while, you were happy with it. Then later on, this is going too far. I want Rachel to have a baby. So how does Rachel feel hearing that you liked it at the beginning originally?
Rachel is grabbing me and wrestling me and punching me in the stomach. She really loves me, and we grew together as dear sisters, and she learned some tricks in the bedroom from me, and I gave her some suggestions, but she and it's not really much, it's just it's not as though I'm talking about any secrets. It's about learning what your husband likes and desires and catering to that, and that could be anything. But Rachel and me, we were at first sisters, and it was a really strange thing. You wouldn't see it very often in the history of man, but it was pretty strange being sisters married to the same man, and it was a strange relationship, and we were able to share his secrets and share his likes and share his desires and share like gossip about him with ourselves, and it was a great relationship. The closer we became to Jacob, the closer we became to ourselves.
Thank you, Leah. The names you gave your son have symbolic meanings. What significance did you attach to these names, and how did they reflect in your personal journey? Because usually when you give birth, you're always naming them something that, oh, now Jacob is gonna love me. So why were you doing that?
Well, in ancient society back in biblical times or before biblical times, people used to choose names with significance as like a prophecy over that child's life or a prophecy over their life. And you'll remember that the prophet who was called to marry the prostitute, he named his children significantly, each of her children with a special meaning, and the meanings of the names manifest in the child's life and manifest in your life. And so that was just part of culture back then. Today, a lot of people name their children specific names because they like the name, and not much thought is given to the meaning of that child's name. Matthew means gift of God, and Robert, Matthew's middle name, means shining one, and Payne means from the country. So Matthew's like a country boy that talks to everyone, who when he's in his proper element, is becoming God's gift to people. And he's got an element in him that shines with the glory of God. And that's what his name means, and that's what he lives. So my children were named for a specific reason, as prophecies that would play out and happen according to what was said about them in the meaning of their names.
Thank you, Leah. And how did you feel about your sister being jealous of you when you were having children and she could not bear any? Because the Bible said Rachel was jealous.
It's a strange thing. It's a strange thing having a person jealous of you. When you love the person who's jealous of you, it's really a hard emotion to deal with. You want to fix the thing that they're jealous of you. The only way I could stop having children, which would help Rachel become less jealous, is stop having sex with Jacob. And Jacob was the one who initiated things, so it was really up to Jacob to stop having children with me. He could have prevented having more children with me if he continued just to go in with Rachel and stop going with me. But he didn't like that, and he didn't want that. And so there was nothing I could really do for Rachel except commiserate with her. In the beginning, I was happy, but as it started to wear on Rachel, I became saddened, and we would cry together and appeal to God. Two sisters are crying and weeping before God, and before long, it took a while, but eventually she was able to have Joseph.
Oh, thank you. And also, can you describe any specific interactions or moments with Jacob that stand out to you in your quest for his love?
Um, I remember one of the births of one of my children, and Matthew doesn't know the children's name. The child come forth from my womb, and he was presented to Jacob, and he looked like Jacob. It was like a little progeny. It was like a little Jacob, and the look in his eyes when he looked at me, that I gave him that child, and it looked like Jacob. And Matthew's asking, what did Leah have Judah?
Yes.
Yeah, Judah was the one that Jesus was descended from, looked like Jacob. And it says in the Bible that Jesus is the son of Jacob, and if you look at Judah as a little child, you'd see Jacob in him, and so when the title for Jesus, son of Jacob, is said, it's like to people who understand what Jacob looked like. He definitely, Judah certainly looked like the son of Jacob. So
Thank you.
Jacob was especially proud that he had a little child that looked like him.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Your son played a significant role in the formation of the 12 tribes of Israel. How do you see your contribution to Jacob's lineage, and what legacy do you believe you left?
Which son?
All your sons, they played a
Right.
significant in the formation of the 12 tribes of Israel. So how do you feel by the role you played in that?
I feel really proud. You can say that mine and my maid's children played up 3/4 of the tribes of Israel, and Israel today are my children, and Israel at war today are my progeny and my children. And if you're a Jew, there's a high chance that you're one of the progeny of my children, and very proud of the fact that Israel was formed from my children. But when the children need to be saved, when the 12 tribes needed to be saved, when Jacob needed to be saved with all his children, uh, God chose Rachel's child to set us free and to save us. And Joseph was integral to that. And even Joseph withheld Benjamin from Jacob to convince him to come to Egypt. So even Rachel's second child, as she died and had Benjamin, he was useful for Joseph to allow Jacob to move to Egypt. So not only were my children responsible for a lot of the children of Israel, but the children of Israel wouldn't have survived without Rachel's child Joseph intervening.
Thank you, Leah. So you've got so many children today, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got millions.
That's incredible.
Do you know? Do you know? You've got three lovely children, and do you know how they bring you so much joy? You as a mother wouldn't be able to choose between your children, but you'd be proud if one of your children, generations later, brought the savior of the world. You wouldn't have chosen that child specifically, and not enough. A lot is said about Judah, my son, but I was not the chosen wife, but I still made way for the Savior. And just as you wouldn't single out one of your children, it would be really beneficial if one of your children went on and did great things. I'm really happy with you as an interviewer. I feel really comfortable with you asking me questions. I really want to thank you for putting the thought into these questions. You really, the people of heaven really appreciate you and the work that you go in. Matthew never had the dedication to spend so much time formulating questions when he interviewed saints, and we needed you to take this to another level. And just as I'm like one of the mothers of Israel, you're like becoming like a spiritual mother to the people here in heaven. So many people in heaven reported after the Dorcas interview that heaven has gone to a whole new level, that and it's because of you and because of your intervention. And we just want to congratulate you and take the time right now to share with you that you're doing a remarkable work, something that you know and you can have like an awareness that you're doing a good job, but truly you won't really understand the work that you've done until you come here to heaven. Perhaps your husband Benjamin can fill you in about what a mighty impact you're having here. But you make me very happy to speak, and you really bring some good answers out. It also helps that it's the middle of the night when Matthew got up and did the interview, and I'm very happy to speak to you and answer your questions. And you really have become the Sidroth of heaven. Someone else could start to interview saints in heaven, and you'd still be the Sid Roth show. People want to be on the Sid Roth show rather than any other. Of course, we'd love to encourage other people to do the same sort of work that you're doing. We'd all like to speak to people on earth and speak to people in heaven, but it gives me great honor to be interviewed by you.
Thank you, Leah. And I'm honored to speak to you as well. I'm honored that everyone are listening and they appreciate the work myself and Matthew are doing. So thank you so much. I don't take that for granted. Leah, Jesus the Savior came through your lineage. Did that make all the pain you went through all worth it in the end? How did you feel?
First of all, I want to say that Jesus came through Jacob, and it was Jacob's seed. I was just a womb. The carrot could have well been Rachel, but it was me. And Jesus is called son of Jacob, not son of Leah. And it was his seed, and it's the seed that counts, not the womb, not the egg. And Jesus did have 4 women mentioned in his genealogy, and they were all important women. He had Ruth, he had he had a prostitute, he had a woman who sold herself to a father-in-law, and they were all important women. And I I had a lot of hurt, but that was initially. I healed up. The more children I had, and the more I was convinced that Jacob used to like to make love to me just as much as Rachel. And I spoke a lot to Rachel about that, and was able to get her feedback on that. And Jacob come to love and respect me, not above Rachel, but equally. And so a lot of women, a lot of women may have grown up in a family with a much prettier sister, and a much prettier sister seemed to have achieved more and got more rewards in life and was more successful. You've got to really come down to accepting yourself. One of the most precious things in this world is accepting yourself, and not a lot of people actually do that. Like Matthew's obese, and his brother's got a fixation on his obesity, and his brother's like a racist, like he's like racist against obese people, and he disrespects people who are overweight, and a lot of successful people do. But Matthew's had to come to grips with his obesity and love himself for it. And you may not be pretty, you may not have the same opportunities as other people, but you've got to come to grips with who you really are. And it was a wonderful thing to know in hindsight. Of course, I wasn't alive to witness Judah being the son that Jesus descended from. I wasn't alive. It's only since I was in paradise and I've been in heaven that I realized that Jesus, the Messiah, Jesus, the Son of God, Jesus, the Savior, became who he was, descended from my son. Jesus hasn't become the Messiah yet. A lot of people say that Jesus is the Messiah. The Messiah is the one who releases Israel from bondage and rules the world, and the whole world comes under him, and the whole world hasn't come under him yet, and he's not recognized by the Jewish people, by my sons and daughters, as the Messiah. And I'll be happy in the day that they do recognize him as the Messiah, because he's the King of the Jews. And when he becomes the King of the Jews, I'll be very happy. But it helped. But a lot of people would like to think that I wasn't reconciled to my sister, and I lived in bitterness and sadness with how the cards played out. But if you're going to progress in this world, if you're going to progress as a person, you've got to at some stage come to grips with the way the cards have been dealt to you. If you continue to live a life thinking that you're second class, or thinking that things have been unfair, or you've been dealt a bad hand, well, you can make something of your hand. You've got to make something of what you've got. And so whilst I'm happy that Jesus descended from Judah, and he had to descend from someone. He could have descended from Joseph. Joseph has got a lot stronger message in the Bible than Judah. Judah's not really mentioned for much, and yet the seed that was important was Jacob's seed. And it's really interesting that Jacob, a deceiver, supplanter, was chosen, a bit of a deviant, a bit of a schemer. He scammed his brother out of a birthright just for a bowl of soup. He knew very, very well what he was doing, and he schemed with his mum and put fur on his skin and had his father mistake who he was and got his not only the birthright but the blessing from the father. And he was very much a deviant, and it's amazing that Jesus was take his name from that, son of Jacob. It's amazing that if you think personally, if you think that you've had a bad life or you've done bad things, you wouldn't think that Jesus could be descended from someone who's such a deviant, such a bad person. And the story of Jacob is just a story that means that anyone can be redeemed, and anyone can be used. And Jesus being descended from Rahab, a prostitute, it just proves that Jesus didn't pick the very best people to be descended from. And so I'm proud. I really am proud that my son Judah was the father of Israel. And the modern Jews, the modern people that identify Jews are mostly people that come from Judah. The other tribes have been lost throughout the world. So most of the people you call Jews at the moment come from the tribe of Judah, Matthew's heard. I encourage you to, if you're listening to this, be the best person that you can be. Come to grips with your lot in life. Come to grips with who you are, with your job, with your ability, with your skills, and praise God and find reasons to praise God and make a life for yourself rather than living a life of regret and envy and jealousy like so many people do.
Thank you, Leah. I really, really like your mindset, and I could see why you were able to survive marrying Jacob with your sister, despite all you went through. Looking at the positive, looking at what you could give as against looking at what you don't have. So how do you encourage people in heaven that might be watching this? We all have different strengths, for them to own on their strengths as against looking at their weaknesses so that they can continue to grow the way the Lord wants them to grow in heaven.
So I want to share with you people in the audience that are watching this and people are watching at home who aren't in the audience. Heaven is a place of opportunity. There seems to be little resistance in heaven to your plans and your thoughts. And the thing that limits growth and limits people from achieving in heaven really comes down to your sense of worthiness, your sense of feeling worthy, feeling deserving of Jesus' praise and deserving of Jesus' time and deserving of Jesus' promotion. And many people are listening to me, really listening, because I seem to be someone who had a life that was unfair and had a marriage that seemed to be unfair. And something beautiful, something good, all of my confusion, he understood. All I had to offer him was brokenness and strife, and he made something beautiful of my life. That story written by a prostitute could very well be my story. And if you're in heaven and you've got that story and you've had hardship on earth and troubles on earth and even trials in heaven, and if it's made you feel unworthy and you succumb to the lie on earth and even the lie persisting in heaven that you're not worthy, that God doesn't love you as much as other people, and God doesn't respect you, and you don't deserve the success, you don't deserve to be happy, you don't deserve things like other righteous people. Matthew you've seen Matthew's life, and you've seen the amount of prostitutes he slept with, and you've seen the amount of sexual depravity he lived in, and yet in heaven he's one of your heroes, and he's managed to get some esteem, and managed to get some progress on himself, and so can you. And it's time to make a decision. Those of you who didn't sign up to be mentored by Dorcas, perhaps some of you broken people who feel undeserving may want to contact me and have me minister into your life, because there's so many, it's just a high percentage of you here in heaven not achieving the things that you could achieve, not going for the things that you could go for. And that you can live on earth. Earth has many opportunities that many people don't take the opportunities and don't make the best of the capitalist West. And the capitalist West allows you to open a business and be successful. And there's certain rules to money and rules to success, and not everyone grabs hold of them. But one of the reasons why many people don't grab hold of things is their feeling of worthiness, and whether they feel worthy or they feel worthless. And I made something beautiful of my life, something beautiful, something good. All I had to offer him was brokenness and strife, and he made something beautiful of my life. I chose, that's the difference. I chose to make a difference in my life. I chose to make something of my life. I chose to get up and stop crying and make something and compete on what seemed like an unlevel playing field. And God sovereignly interacted with me and sovereignly made a choice to make my life better by making Rachel's womb barren for a time. Like I did nothing wrong, you know, guys. I married Jacob. I had sex with Jacob on that first night because my father told me to, and I obeyed my father. I did nothing wrong. It was like I was used as a prostitute. It was like I was used as a pawn for power, and it was a power play by my father over Jacob. He wanted another 7 years labor off Jacob, and he was using me as a pawn, and it's like prostituting me. But I honored my father and I loved my father. I did nothing wrong, and I was caught in a bad situation. And a lot of you feel that you came from a bad situation or had a bad situation. Many of you girls here in heaven that were sexually abused and were in sex work and worked as prostitutes, or you're sexually abused and you never felt worthy, you never felt lovable, you never felt. So many of you, such a high percentage of you, were brokenhearted, and you're still brokenhearted in heaven. You don't feel worthy, you don't feel worthy of the love of God. Cry out to me. Let me speak to you on a Zoom call. Let me speak to you face to face. Start to speak voice to voice to me, and let me encourage you and bless you. I'm here for you, to help you transform. And I've got a couple of books that I've written on this subject. Look up those books, and I've got a few videos on this subject, and look up those videos and do a search and transform yourself, because it's time. We've entered into a time in heaven where people are going to other levels and improving. And you may wonder, why did we wait 2,000 years? Why is it possible? Well, we just waited until two broken people could bring our voice. And it's time for another thing. It's time for change. And who says God can't change things up? And so you don't always have to be last. You don't always have to be overlooked. It's a choice, and you can choose to say, "Hey, I want to progress. I want to go to another place." And it's not as though God is unhappy with your low self-esteem. It's not as though God is upset with you or you're in trouble, but if my words stimulate you, if my words fall in a good place with you and convict you, I encourage you to step forth and start to be mentored by me and get yourself to another place.
Thank you, Leah. I wanted to ask that, how did your experience of rejection impacted the way you raised your children or the way you interacted with them growing up?
It's very important if you're rejected not to carry that spirit forth. So I encouraged all my children with the fact that they were loved. I didn't treat any one of them more special than the other. I had Matthew wants to ask how many daughters did I have?
Just one, Dina.
Yeah. And Dina was raped?
Yes.
Yeah, Dina was pretty like Rachel, and that was the third that gene coming through. And so she copped it hard, and Dina came out looking really pretty and grew up to be a pretty young girl, but I didn't treat her any better. Like I had a sister that looked like her, and so I knew the deficits of treating her any more special than her brothers. So when you've been rejected, it would probably be common to carry that spirit of rejection down to your children, but I did my best to encourage my children and bless my children and have them grow up knowing that they're loved by mum and dad.
Thank you, dear. Do you have any favorite out of your children?
Matthew grew up with a grandmother who said that he was her favorite, and it especially blessed him. And his grandmother was like used to go to clairvoyance and mediums, and was a spiritualist, and she just felt Matthew needed to know that he was special. I didn't feel the need to tell any of my children that they were my favorite. I loved all of my children. As a mother, I loved Dina because she was my girl. But the boys didn't feel that I loved her any more special than themselves. All my sons were upright and good individuals. I did my best to turn my boys into my father and like their father. Jacob become more and more like my father as things progressed, and I tried to take the best elements out of Jacob and my father and instill those values into my sons. You could say that Dina really was my favorite, but she never knew it, and the boys never knew it. But a mother likes to have a daughter, and Dina made me very happy and very proud. I was, you probably, Matthew is not aware, but you probably got questions about that coming up. But she made me especially happy as a mother. She's a beautiful, well-behaved young girl.
Oh, thank you. And when you were facing all these challenges in your marriage, did you have like a support mechanism that you could rely on? Maybe your father, people that do support you, advise you, encourage you in the process?
I had women around me that that spoke to me, that understood my situation. But here's a lesson. Here's a lesson for you. If you're disadvantaged in some way, people don't like to hear you talking about that all the time. Like Matthew could go on for hours and hours about how he was molested on a beach and sexually abused, but saying that he was sexually abused or talking about that or complaining about that doesn't really win friends with people. People know that there must have been something that caused him to have such disruptive and addictive lifestyle in his life, but it's not talked about. If you focus your life complaining about what has gone wrong by you, it gets a bit old and a bit tiring, and even among your friends, it gets a bit much. So Matthew's not a big proponent of positive speaking, but it has got its place. It has got an element, and so I made a choice to compete with my sister. So what people didn't know is I willingly complied with the direction my father took, and on reading the Bible and as you're formulating these questions, you may not have known that, and so I there's a cliche: you made your bed, you sleep in it, and I obeyed my father, and so I was reaping the repercussions of my decision, and I didn't go in there and sleep with Jacob against my will, and I wasn't raped by Jacob. So I was complicit in that decision. So I was complicit in the consequences. And so I had friends and people that loved me, but that was more centered around ministering to our children and like a mother's group. And we used to meet and look after each other's children and give each other advice. And I wasn't as down in the mouth about my situation as people would assume. And similarly, if you had speaking to people on earth and in heaven, if you've had bad things happen to you, it's time to grow up. It's time to forgive. It's time to turn things around. And even if you can't do much, you can do a video, or you can write a book, or tell people of your hardship and what God's taught you through this. Every person who's suffered can help other people who suffer. And if you get your focus off yourself and get it on to other people, you too can bring God glory.
Thank you, Leah. Can you share insight into your personal relationship with God? How did your faith sustain you during both the joyful and challenging moments when you were on earth?
It says scripturally that there's only a number of people, priests and prophets and kings, that could hear from God, and so not many people could hear from the Holy Spirit and hear from God. But notwithstanding, Matthew's mother, that Matthew's aware of, only heard from Jesus 3 times in her life, so she had a strong faith. So it's not necessary that you actually be able to hear from God. I had a strong faith. Our family was a family of faith, and I believed in God's sovereignty. I believed God was the boss, and I believed God chose my path, and I was a faithful wife. The Israelites hadn't been formed yet. We were the beginning of the Israelites, and as far as Matthew knows, yeah, it is. This was before the law of God, before Moses, and I believed in the Jewish God, but he wasn't even the Jewish God at that time, because the Jews come from Judah. So I believed in God, and I believed God's ways were right, and his order was correct. And so you wouldn't say that I was a theologian. I've learned a lot more about the Bible and a lot more about theology since I've been in heaven. But I believed in God and his principles, and I saw them reflected in my father. And you may say, well, how could you see that reflected in a father that was dishonest? And the father wasn't so much dishonest, he was just looking out for his own welfare. He's looking out for the welfare of me, and he was looking with his wisdom my best outcome. And Jacob was a prize and a very successful and hard worker, and he was making sure I had a husband that would provide for him and provide for me. And if my father knew that Jacob would work another 7 years, well, let him do that. But he's taking Leah too, and he's going to support Leah. And in the Islamic tradition today, Islamic husband is allowed to have more than one wife, but one of the provisos is that he's got to provide for the second wife just as well as he provides for the first one. And he's got to provide for each wife equally. And that stops a lot of them because they haven't got enough income to provide for both. Well, the same sort of rule applied in those days. And so Laban knew that I would be looked after equally to Rachel, and it was like a security over my life. And he ensured that for me. And the same God of provision, the same God of protection, the same God of love was working for my father. My father wasn't necessarily being dishonest. He was looking out for my best interests, and I was complicit in his decision. And God, that reflected well on God. That many people look at my story, and even Newtaloo looks at as a sad story. And as it's written in the Bible, it really sounds sad. But as you listen to this interview and you see the dimensions of my life and how I speak and how I think about you second guess yourself and say, perhaps I didn't know the truth. And that's the beauty of these interviews, because you people of heaven aren't aware of this, and you just know what was written in the Bible. And I'm so pleased to speak to you, my brothers and sisters in heaven, and share with you that each story, each person in the Bible has got a greater story than what was written. And I hope that you've really been encouraged by what I'm having to say today.
Thank you. Thank you. Leah, how will you say your relationship is now with all your children in heaven?
I love all my children. I'm especially close to Dina because of her assault and what she learned through that experience. But I'm close to all my sons, and I'm close to Rachel's sons. I especially love Benjamin. He has a really good fighting spirit. He's a good, Matthew wonders, what do you call your sisters? What do you call your sister's children?
My sister's children. Oh,
Yeah.
Benjamin and Joseph.
Yeah, what would I call them? My nephew?
Oh, is that what? Yes, nephew.
Yeah. I especially proud of my nephews. Very proud of Joseph and how he saved my children and the family of Israel. And I really, because Leah, because Rachel was so special to me, and I really love the two children that she had. And I've got a good relationship with Rachel in heaven. Sad that she died giving birth to Benjamin, and she's got a really good life. And so I love all my children. My children went and did mighty exploits and did great things on earth, and they all achieved what their father's blessing said to them, and they went on and achieved what was meant to happen, and they're all great men, and Dina's a great woman, but I especially love the maids' children, and Rachel's maids' children, and Rachel's children. I love all of them, and they became the modern Jews.
Thank you. Matthew, how are you feeling? Should we round it up?
Or
you could take more questions?
2 more questions.
One question, okay. Leah, do you mind telling me what has been your experience with Jesus in heaven? What kind of relationship do you have with him?
I see a lot of my Father in Jesus. Jesus is a very a good communicator. I remember my father used to tell me great stories, and they're all stories of significance. And I'm not sure if you're aware that Jesus is a great storyteller. It wasn't just his life on earth that had him telling parables, but Jesus tells so many stories, and it's often wonderful to see Jesus with children and sit down in the audience and listen to Jesus speaking to children. And you can learn so much with Jesus. He just sits down and tells stories, and he asks the children to put their hands up if they know the meaning of that story or what that story means. And I'm an adult, and I've been in paradise and in heaven for 2,000 years. And often the children have got the answers to the story, and I haven't got it. And when the child says the answer and Jesus says that's right, it's just fascinating. So that's probably a dimension of Jesus that many people on earth wouldn't know, and some of you in heaven don't know. You probably wonder why I'm always around the children. I have got a great work with women and children in heaven, and so part of my responsibility in heaven is teaching children. I'm a teacher, but I especially love when Jesus comes to my classroom and he starts to teach the children, because he teaches me. And Matthew's tired and not overly tired, and but I'm actually crying as I speak this, that Jesus' stories just touch me so deeply and reminds me so much of my father, who was a storyteller. And in the days that we lived, not many people had the ability to write, and not many things were passed on by writing. Things were passed on orally through stories, and Jesus is the great orator. He's the great storyteller, and he tells stories when he's preaching and sharing information. When he teaches, he illustrates what he's saying with stories, but around the children, he's especially a storyteller. And so I love that aspect of Jesus so much, like my father. I encouraged Jacob to tell stories, but he didn't really warm to it as much as my father. I love Jesus also because he's got such a love in his eyes. Every time he looks at you, you feel fully accepted and fully known. Matthew wrote 120 books, and he's only got a handful of people that really see him. I'm sure he's sure that there may be 10 or 20 or any number of people who really see him and understand him, that have read 50 or 60 books, but he only really knows 2 people who've read a large portion of his books that actually see him. And so many people in this life are being heard and seen, but no one's really seeing them and understanding them. And so many people in this world search for significance with their Facebook posts and their videos and their books and everything they do, and they're just searching for someone to see them and understand them. Well, there's no doubt the first time Jesus looks into your eyes, you can see that he sees you. He looks right through you, and he understands you. Matthew encountered that on earth with a certain person, and when that person looked at him, he could tell that the person saw him. And Matthew refers to those sort of eyes as Jesus' eyes, because he recognized that this man, which was a gracious and loving man, possessed the eyes of Jesus, could actually see him and understand him. And so many people talk about Jesus' eyes. Matthew's not really encouraged about knowing what Jesus actually looks like, and pictures of Jesus that so-called little children saw and draw pictures of Jesus. It says in the Ten Commandments, you shouldn't make a graven image of anything. So even making a picture of Jesus that you saw in heaven is a graven image, and it's disobeying God. There should be no picture of Jesus in the world that's venerated or accepted or praised. And but his eyes are something different, to look into Jesus' eyes. And many times us saints have been talking about Jesus' eyes, and Matthew's been able to see what we're talking about. And his love will... Matthew heard a testimony of a guy that he did washing dishes with, and he said that Jesus appeared to him in his kitchen, and it knocked him to his knees. He's on his knees, and he said just out of Jesus' heart came like this beam of light and knocked him over, and Jesus' eyes just showed him that he was loved, and he was dearly loved, and he said his eyes melted him. Well, that's what happens with Jesus' eyes, but it's not only his eyes, it's all his mannerisms, it's his questions. He'll ask you questions about things you were thinking the day before, or a minute before. He'll say things that are answers to your questions, things that you've been pondering the last week or the last day. You can meet Jesus in heaven about once a week, but you can request to meet him as often as you like. And Jesus is very fair. He's very reasonable. He's a deep thinker. You can get lost in the depths of Jesus' understanding and his love. There's no end to Jesus. There's no end to his knowledge. He's knowledgeable about every subject. He's just like, he's God. He's superhuman. He's got a human body. He's got a human intellect, but he's so beyond the human intellect and so beyond the human body, and he exists outside of time, and he can come into heaven time, and he can leave heaven time and go into earth time. He's multi-dimensional. He's multi-planet. He's multi-universe. He's multi-thought processes. He can have a million conversations at once. He's remarkable. He's just so full of love and encouragement. And I really encourage you people of heaven to ask him more questions. And you can learn so much from asking Jesus questions. And he's not too busy. He's not too interested in what he's doing. It's not true that he hasn't got enough time. It's not true that he doesn't want to hear from you. So many of you think he's someone mighty and he's God and he's the Son of God and he's so precious and he hasn't got enough time for you. And that's just low self-esteem speaking, and that's a feeling that you're not worthy. And you can take as much of Jesus' time as you like. So start talking to him and start engaging with him, because he's full of love. I could speak for an hour about what Jesus is like. He's the best groom. He's better than Jacob. He's better than my father. He's the source. He's the source of every good thing. Every good thing that happens on earth and in heaven comes from Jesus. He's the source. He's the way. He's the truth, and he's the life. And if you want to find the meaning of you want to find the right way to go. The right way to go is to develop a faith in Jesus. If you want to find the meaning of truth in all its dimensions, is found in Jesus, and you want to find the way to a prosperous, successful life, even here in heaven, you'll find that in Jesus. So many of you here in heaven know Jesus and know about him, but aren't living your best life that you could be living. And the life in heaven isn't about possessions, it's about intimacy, and you can all grow closer to Jesus, and I encourage you to do so. We'll end there.
Thank you, Leah. Yeah, we're going to end there. Thank you. You've really, really blessed me, and I hope people watching from heaven as well has been able to pick one or two things from this video today. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just want to ask Leah, are you enjoying this interview so far? So Matthew, I just want to share with you that it's just been a combination of the things that are on my mind that I've had to share, that were sparked by questions of Toulouse, but I can imagine that Toulouse got answers today that were surprising to her on a number of occasions, and that comes from taking your questions from the text and understanding the text properly, and it's not really conveyed good enough for you to understand that I had a good life and I made something beautiful of my life. And so I really appreciate you, Toulouse, for digging the depths, because your misunderstanding about my life actually was a misunderstanding of everyone here in heaven, and gave me the opportunity to speak the truth. And so it was destined to come this way, and you were destined to say these questions. I'm really enjoying myself, and I'm really enjoying putting my perspective on things, and for people to understand and come to grips with my life. So if you like this video, please like it. If you want to comment, please comment. If you haven't subscribed to Matthew's channel, please subscribe. God bless.